Welcome to Dental Unscripted, where Mike Dinzio and Paula Quinn break down the practice ownership journey, one episode at a time. Starting up, buying, and running a successful dental practice.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dental Unscripted. This is Mike Dinzio and Paula Quinn co-hosting the program Dental Unscripted. We're super happy to have you on the program. We have a great episode today. It should be very spirited. It's all about HR, common HR questions, concerns, things that you all as practice owners or soon to be practice owners are going to deal with. It's one of the hardest things that you're going to deal with as an owner. We deal with it as a company and as the owners, but any owner knows the pain and suffering of managing people. It's just the world we live in. So without further ado, Paula, would you mind introducing our amazing guest today and maybe giving the audience a little bit about who the company is?
Yeah, so this is Jill Hasselman, Chief Growth Officer of HR for Health, one of our favorite HR, I think our only HR company.
We're the only ones who want to do it.
Exactly. Love the name Hassle. We were joking about that earlier. Perfect. It's like you made it up for your job. Perfect, because it is a hassle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jill, why don't you tell us just a little snippet about HR for Health? You can probably say it better than me. I can certainly afterward, let everybody know, our audience know why we reach out to you, why we need your help. But if you can give us a little bit about your company, that would be great.
Yeah. And I hope nobody turns off the episode because they know it's HR. I know people don't love this topic. We're going to make it fun. I promise. But yeah, I mean, I joked that we're the only ones who want to do it, but it is true. I know it's people's least favorite topic when it comes to running their business, running the dental practice. And so our goal is really to make HR as easy as possible for somebody who doesn't know how to do HR. That's actually our product mission, is somebody, again, who just has no idea about HR, doesn't want to know how to do HR, that we make it easy for them to do that. And so we were created by an employment attorney, Leah Ramchian, who I believe has been on this podcast before. And he created HR for Health as a preventative solution to avoid lawsuits from happening and from employee to employer. And that's really our goal, is that we don't want to have to refer things out to a law firm. If, there is an issue, it goes away very quickly. And so we built a platform that is really custom for a dental practice and how they need to run their HR, because dental practices are unique and there really wasn't solutions for the nitty gritty, the intricacies and the struggles that they have. And so everything at our core is, how do we protect the doctor owner best possible and make sure the employees are getting what they deserve to get. And since then, we've kind of grown the platform into more like performance-based things and added those things on. We've added payroll in, some of the more like classic HR stuff that you think of. But yeah, our day in and day out is we are only working with the practices that are listening to this podcast. Like that's our bread and butter. And I've been doing this for almost 12 years. It's been super fun. And I will say though, that the pain points throughout these 12 years don't seem to change or evolve that much. Mm-hmm. They continue to be the same. And so our mission is really just to try to get education out there of how do we make it just less of a frustration and afterthought? Because that's where issues come up, is when we just sweep them under the rug over and over again.
It's so true. It's so true. I think doctors just don't want to address these things, and the problems are the same.
Totally. And when we hire new team members like into HR for Health, and we're teaching them about dental, I always tell them, picture when you walk into your dental office, you don't see the dentist. You see their team. And I think it's really symbolic of kind of how the practices are functioning is so many owners feel like my team is like running the show here. I feel like I'm kind of held hostage by what they want to do. And so it's like, how do they like bridge that gap so that they feel like there's a healthy balance between what's good for the business, what's good for them, what's protecting them, and also kind of keeping the employees happy and wanting to come back to work.
I think the biggest thing, and dentists should know, well, maybe not dentists, hygienists for sure. Hygienist, is prevention, right? No, even though, yes, do we want someone to have a cavity so we can fill it? Of course. But really, and hygienists, our whole goal is prevention, to prevent, a dentist is preventing a disease from getting bigger, a hygienist preventing gum disease from getting bigger. So our goal would be like what? Prevent issues, right? So I would say, probably ask you, Jill, what do you think? I know there's lots, but why do you think the number one thing is to prevent issues from even happening? What is that?
Having things in writing and then sticking to what you're saying you're going to do. So I'll give an example, like an employee handbook, the most classic thing you think of when it comes to HR. Just even that one individual piece of HR is like when we do surveys and we're doing research in the marketplace for, what our clients need and what the norms are. The number one way that somebody gets their employee handbook when we do these surveys is from a colleague or another office, and then they're edited to their own office. So you're already starting off on the wrong foot because you don't know what is in that in the first place.
Yeah, you don't even read it, right?
Right. And you're not an expert to edit it and know if it's state specific and all those things. And so that's already on the wrong foot. And then they don't use their handbook. Like that's the purpose of making things non-emotional, which is what people get so stressed about. And I manage people. I've done our internal HR. I mean, I've done everything at HR for Health, from order coffee to the office to writing employee handbooks to dealing with internal team members to, large partnerships and so in that, I get it. It's hard, but like the easiest way to make it where it's not where you're losing sleep every single night and really having to psych yourself up to have these conversations is there's consistency. It doesn't matter if somebody's your favorite employee. I have somebody who has reported to me for almost 10 years. He has write-ups in HR for Health because I have to write him up. He also is super productive, but it's just that consistency of you broke the policy and I have to hold you accountable. And so that trickles into so many different areas of the business. And I don't think anybody's intentionally doing it. They just don't know what to do when these requests come up. And again, I think it ties back into the team tends to run the show a lot. They come in and say, you have to give me this. You have to give me this day off. You have to pay me for this sick time. And they might be right, but some cases they aren't. And the doctors are kind of just going with it and it just multiplies into bigger issues.
Well, we talk about, we just did a webinar this, I don't even know what day it is, Wednesday, Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. And it was all about like leadership and putting agreements together kind of on the front end of what the team's going to be, how they're going to show up, how they're going to, behave, so to speak. And, the HR handbook is kind of the ultimate agreement in some of this stuff. And the thing about that webinar was like, okay, you could go through the agreements. You could agree to all these things. The team agrees. Everybody agrees. Everybody signs the HR. But the hardest part is the accountability part of following through with it. And so it's like step one is like, have it. Without the agreements, you can't even start with a conversation. But step one is having the agreement. And then the hardest part is just having those conversations.
It's like bringing it up right when it happens. I always tell docs, don't call it a write-up. Call it, hey, I'm going to document this.
Right.
We're both going to document and sign off on it to protect you and me of what the chain of events were. So even if it was a fender bender, it's not your fault. You're not in trouble, but we're going to document it. You were 20 minutes late. Here were the chain of events, because what happens is you don't need it until you need it. and Paula's been late 10 times. And like you said, she's your favorite. There's always been a great excuse. All of a sudden you wake up one day and say, Paula's been late 10 times.
Right.
Now starting to affect my office. But guess what? You never even had the conversation with Paula ever.
Yeah.
Right.
And
it's
very
uncomfortable, right, Jill, for me to now as an owner, boss, or manager,
totally.
You know, it's like and sometimes they'll even
comment, like, I did it 9 times. Why on the 10th one are you now mad at me? Like,
and then Paula's also like, really? I've been late 10. Are you sure? No, this is like my 3rd time, right? It's like, no documentation.
Attendance is by far the biggest pain point that we see doctors dealing with, hands down. And because so much goes into, when I say attendance, that's tardiness, that's clocking in early, that's unauthorized overtime, that's, you know, not taking your meal and rest breaks when you need to. And so, and what happens is, again, we'll start working with a client. And I've had so many doctors say this to me of, well, my employees won't clock in and out. And I'm like, do you hear what you just said? What do you mean they won't clock in? Like, that is just a basic function of being an employee. And like, we have a lot of work to do if like the mindset is, well, my employees won't clock in and out.
Exactly.
And I'm like, and when they work unauthorized overtime, they feel, and I get it, like, I'm not blaming them. It does really feel like I am helpless in this. Like, my employees are just wringing me dry. They're running up their time clocks. And I'm like, write them up for that. I guarantee the first time that you do that, they're going to go, oh, wow, they're paying attention. Like, I can't get away with this anymore. And in HR for Health, we actually have features that, like, if somebody is late, there's a pop-up that says, you're late. Do you want to give a reason why you're late? And we see the employee behavior changing and we've actually had feedback from clients of employees being like, yeah, I was going to go get coffee, but I didn't because I didn't want to get the pop-up. And so but also it's the earlier you do that. And I know we were talking before we started on this, like, I love working with an acquisition or a startup because you're starting from like a clean slate. You get to put that consistency and that feedback and that transparency and that open communication right from the beginning. And even if you're not doing it and, you know, you've been in practice for a while, now is still the time to start doing it. But it is, the sooner you do it, the much easier it is. And again, consistency, it just has to be normal. They can't think it's like flavor of the week and you're going to get over it. And then they can go back to their old
kid, right? It's mom and dad. Who can we get away with? You know, it's funny that you said that, Jill, because the startups fight me the most. They'll say, well, there's just 2 of us, you know, 2 employees. Everything's great. We all talk. We all get along. And I'm like, until you don't. My mom, I say this to every dental practice that I help. My mom's favorite saying is, I like to keep honest people honest. It's like, don't leave your keys in the car. Don't leave your door unlocked. Don't go without stating how you want the phone answered. Don't go without writing it up the first time they're tardy, documenting it, whatever, because it's just like I said a minute ago, all of a sudden it's out of control.
Right, because you don't want to stay at 2 employees forever, right? Like, you're going to grow. And
well, even those employees' life changes, right? It's not always, you know, it's the worst when you have to have those difficult conversations. And I love, we were talking about prevention earlier, and we can go back to that. You know, what's the number one prevention thing? We were talking, prevention is everything, because now you don't have to talk about it.
Yeah. And you don't have to be a jerk either. Like I think everybody like attaches.
Well, you do though, Michael. That's the thing, is if you never laid the groundwork, it feels like a jerk. That's why you have to.
I guess that's what I mean is like, if you could, we're talking about prevention right now. Like, it's all about preventing problems, right? So like you said, handbook is one of those things, right? Yeah. So like, it's like the more, like you're saying, Paula, the more rigid you are on the front end, quote unquote, you don't have to be a jerk about anything. It's just like, hey guys, we agreed to this.
They see the pop up and they decide not to go get coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like, forget it. I'm gonna stay.
Okay, so Jill, so if the number one thing is the handbook, what's the number 2 thing? What's the next thing?
Is walking the walk of what you have written. So a couple examples of this, like, employee handbook, again, especially depending on where you get them from. If it's not from HR for Health or like reputable source, you might be starting off on the wrong foot. But let's say your handbook is great. Most handbooks say things like, we will do performance reviews 30, 60, 90, and 1 year. The employees are reading that and they're going, okay, I'm going to have a review at my anniversary. Their anniversary comes, nobody says anything about their anniversary, no performance review happens. You've immediately just broken trust and put something in writing that you say you're going to do that you're not going to do. And so I tell people, like, if you don't plan to do performance reviews, which I don't agree with, but if you're not going to do them, don't have it in your handbook that you say you're going to do them. Like it goes hand in hand. Another thing, one of the most common things we see when we start working with a client is they have, when it comes to time off, sick time, vacation, PTO, holidays, whatever it is, they have something in writing in their handbook and they're doing something completely different. Because at HR for Health, we do their handbook for them and then we set up in the system exactly what their handbook says. And what we find is clients will call us and they go, my PTO is wrong in HR for Health. And we're like, well, this is what it says in your handbook. Oh, I actually don't do it that way. And we're like, okay, so we need to update your handbook. And so again, these are things that like break trust almost immediately. And we get asked by doctors all the time, like, what do employees want? What do they, please help me. I'm trying to retain them. I'm like, they want to be paid correctly. They want to know what to expect. They want to be able to see their time off. They want to be able to know how far in advance they're supposed to request it so that there's like not that friction. And the final one on this too is the new, I'm a millennial. I used to never say that because, like when I would speak and stuff, people would like throw tomatoes at you, but now everybody hates
to be a millennial, Michael.
What?
I talk millennial all the time. He goes, I'm not a millennial. Now
but it's okay. The heat's off of us because now everybody hates the Gen Zers, right?
Yeah.
Like they have a whole other thing. So I am like loud and proud that I'm a millennial now.
You're just like, I'm not a Gen Z.
Exactly. I'm not a Gen Z. And so, but what they expect, I mean, they are so used to technology. They are so used to, as consumers and how they live out in the world, like they can see, all of us, we can see that our Amazon package is 5 stops away and we have all that transparency. And then they come into their place of work at a dental office and everything's on paper, nothing's consistent, nothing's transparent. And it's just not a good experience for them. Like they're expecting more no matter what size your practice is, no matter if it's 2 employees, they want things electronic, they want things at their fingertips and they want to know what to expect. And so I think that's a big thing that like the practices also now need to evolve to, even if you're not worried about getting sued, if you're worried about your employees quitting, like you should have an HR system in place.
Can you just update, well, within reason, I'm sure this might be a loaded question. I've had docs ask. I feel like you just can't amend your handbook whenever you want it. Like if you've told them, if you hire them with a week or 2 weeks vacation, you can't just be like, oh, sorry, we're taking you down to 1. Can you?
Yeah, you can. I mean, that you can.
You might
depending on where you're located, right? So like in California, vacation time is considered earned wages, right? So you can't use it or lose it. You can't take those hours away. But we deal with that a lot, like with acquisition clients, because they might be buying a practice where people have like 5 weeks of vacation. Office manager's been there for 25 years, like at a very high salary rate. And by working with you guys or, whoever, get this awareness of, wow, this is actually not really feasible for you. And so we do have to work to sometimes change those policies. And that's, again, like
an acquisition. But what if like I've just owned a practice for 15 years and I'm like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. I'm taking away some paid holidays or.
Yeah.
You can just do that.
Yes, like black and white. Yes, you can change your policies at any time, assuming you have a good handbook that says you're allowed to do that. You need a statement in there that this can be changed at any time. And it should be. That's the thing, is so many times like somebody will work on a handbook for like 6 months, get it all done, and then 5 years go by and they've never looked at it again. Like it should be reviewed at least once a year for law changes, but also, again, is my practice still operating the way I'm saying it is on paper? And if it's not, then it should be amended. In the situation of like changing vacation and stuff, I would say like we would have our HR advisors work with them on like maybe some people are grandfathered into something. maybe it's just for new employees moving forward, or it's certain positions that are creating like a bigger headache. Maybe all hygiene is part-time and they're getting vacation that's the same as everyone who's full-time. So there's different ways that we can slice it and approach it. But overall speaking, yes, they can change their policies as long as it's not like things like you can't just all of a sudden be like, I don't pay overtime, so I'm not going to have an overtime policy. It's like, well, we can't change that. Like that's just by law. But the things that they don't have to be doing, yeah, they can change it.
All right, nice.
I mean that makes sense, owning a business, but sometimes the laws don't make sense for business owners. So like
they do not. And I think what people
let's not talk about California's laws.
Yeah, I don't.
Dude, there's a lot of states that are keeping us like up at night of all the stuff we have to deal with. But I think what people also don't understand when we say like laws change all the time, they do. And a lot of it is because laws are passed, they aren't thought all the way through. And then they go in and they amend them. They clarify them. There's case law that comes out that, finds loopholes. And so that's why it is always evolving because like, again, our sick leave laws, if we're using California or even New York, like those have been amended multiple times because they're passed. And then they realize like, oh, this doesn't fit in for these certain businesses or, this actually isn't better for the employee. And so that's our job for our clients is to always keep up on that stuff and make sure they're in line. But yeah, I mean, we're in all 50 states. It keeps us on our toes for sure.
Okay.
I bet.
So
Go ahead, Paula. No. Go ahead, Paula.
I was going to just go with documentation really quickly. Obviously with HR for Health, it streamlines all. It's super easy. Like you said, it pops up if you're late, things like that. But for someone that maybe isn't there yet, what do you tell them to document? Like, or how thorough maybe is the question? Does it need to be? Does it need to have my signature and their signature? Is it just if the doctor just documents it and tucks it away, is that good enough? Do I have to bring it to the attention of the employee, have the conversation and both initial? Can you speak on that?
It definitely depends on the situation. So the advice I always give,
he's doing the HR answer.
Well, like it is tiered. Like it really does depend. So like, first of all, the advice I always give is, and like when I do like workshops that are hands-on, trying to help owners really form an ideal HR world for themselves, I always give them the challenge of think about those things that annoy you every day. Like, is it cell phone use? Is it you're like, God, why is she on her cell phone again? Or is it tardiness? Like, what are those little things that are like, just, you can't put your finger on it, but it's really putting you in a bad mood? It's reflecting on those things. And then again, going back and looking at what do I have in writing? I know that it might sound crazy of like, and I get people say this, they're like, Jill, they know they can't be late. And I'm like, okay, but have you defined what late is? Like, what does your policy say about it? Is it 5 minutes after their start time? Is it if they don't clock in right on the dot? Like, and communicate that in your onboarding process of what your like deal breakers are of like, hey, I'm just letting you know, cell phones really bother me. Like, and you'll see our policy. So it's like setting them up for success so that they know and they're not guessing. And then you always have to look at, did I give them that expectation in writing? If I didn't, maybe I need to amend that a little bit and beef it up. And then depending on the situation, I'm going to say like not crazy things, right? Like if somebody comes into the office drunk, that's a whole different thing. Like we hear everything, right? Like people are drug dealers outside the office. Like our HR team hears a lot of stuff. So I'm not talking about that.
So do
but
I.
Just consistent, like daily things that you're trying to improve behavior is the first thing is just a check-in conversation. I recommend that you're checking in with the team at least every other week anyway, of just like quick little, hey, this is what's been going on. This is what you're doing well. By the way, I noticed you were late 3 times in the last couple of weeks. We really have to turn that around. And then you just make that note for yourself. That doesn't need to be something the employee sees you and you're saying, I had this conversation. Similar to how you're documenting your charts, you want to have dates, you don't want to have any lines skipped. It's the same thing. Like and do it in real time. Like we forget about that it's like, well, I'll get to it later. You never get to it. So that's the first thing. And then if the behavior continues to happen, you have a more formal conversation where you're kind of writing up like what happened and you're reviewing that with the employee, but they don't necessarily need to sign it, but you're being a little bit more transparent of what you have in writing. And then if it continues to happen, it should be a signed thing by the employee. Again, date and time stamp. And Paula, you said something about like a fender bender and kind of saying like, this is what happened. We do get asked like, well, what if an employee refuses to sign something? It's the same thing as like when you get a speeding ticket. You're not saying, I'm signing this because I agree I was speeding. You're just saying, I've read it, I understand it. Exactly. And then, maybe I'll go fight it later. And we have had situations where employees still refuse to sign stuff. And then you give them a piece of paper that says they refuse to sign something and they sign that. So there's no way around it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's good.
Termination should never be a surprise though. Like again, in our system, we have ways that like write-ups can be private and write-ups can be really like out there and force them to sign it. And we have clients that call about something that's really small and they're like, I want it to be a formal violation and them to sign it. And we're like, that's a little aggressive. Let's not do that one. Or the flip side.
You get a dentist that says that? I'm shocked.
I know. They're really type A, this person, like really type A. And because they've been burned before by employees.
And then they're like, can you deliver it to them? Because I'm not comfortable.
Because when a client calls our HR team and says, hey, I want to fire somebody, the first place that our team goes and looks is in the platform and the software to say, okay, what does the documentation look like? And we'll see the employee doesn't have any of the documentation visible.
Well, I actually want to talk about that. Okay. Because that's a perfect segue to the next topic that I want to cover, and that is risk mitigation. How do we mitigate the risk of being sued or blowback from crazy employees that just want to
the last 27 minutes
cause problems? Yeah, exactly. So documentation, like Paula, me, you, Jill, we all know this, but can you say it in your way? Because like you just said, there's a problem, it needs to be addressed, but then you go back and you see nothing. What's documentation mean? What should they do?
I think the easiest way to think about why documentation is your best friend is, so when lawsuits happen, when an employee makes a complaint, they're not typically making a complaint for the small ticky-tacky stuff, which is probably why you actually parted ways with them. They are finding a lawyer that's going, oh my God, yeah, we have a wrongful termination suit. We have a discrimination lawsuit. It's these big ticket items that aren't, again, probably related to why you terminated. But what it does is put you in a situation as the owner where you essentially have to produce documentation to show why that's not the case. So if you don't have any documentation about they were tardy this many times, or these are all the conversations I had with them, like clear outlines of showing, no, I did not fire them for insert the blank there, which is whatever, big ticket item it is, then you're already on the back foot. And that's where it's really difficult. That's where lawyer fees skyrocket because you're trying to like build this case. Whereas if you have that so clearly, if it's just like, no, I've had this conversation with them many times. They no called, no showed. They were late. Whatever it is that they did, you're in a way better position to go, nope, actually, this is why I parted ways with
them. This is just like we started out with prevention and now we're sitting here documentation. This is exactly what happens to a dentist. I say, if it's not written, it didn't happen. What happens is usually when someone sues a dentist or takes them to the board, it's mostly because they didn't feel heard. They don't feel like the cost is appropriate. It's usually an administrative type thing.
Totally. And I will say something, this makes people so mad at me, but it's true. Don't fight unemployment. That is like the quickest way to make an employee disgruntled, like an ex-employee. And I know everybody hates that answer because they're like, well, it raises my premiums. It does not.
It doesn't
move the needle that much it's such an ego thing on both sides. It's like, just let them have the unemployment. Like when you're terminating somebody, pay them everything they could possibly be owed. Like it is so much. They don't withhold a final paycheck because they didn't give keys back. Like just these little things that totally, to your point, Paula, just throw gas on the fire. And then they're like, you know what? I deserve so much more than like what I'm getting. And
back to those Zennials.
I know.
Not the millennials. The millennials would never do that. But
No.
us Gen X's would just go away. We would just go find
be like, wait, you want to fire me? Okay, I'm sorry.
I know, you're like, I deserve nothing.
Yeah, I've been waiting to leave anyway. It's better this way,
Yeah.
you know. So no, it really is. But keep. I don't know if I interrupted you enough, but dentists should relate to this because it's CYA. Cover your ass. Document. It goes the same for your clinical notes. If somebody's upset, if somebody says I don't like the color, document all of it, because if it comes back to bite you, you're protected. Because I can guarantee that patient, that employee doesn't have those records. They're not going to remember all the times they were late or left, did overtime, worked through lunch, didn't do the proper things. They're not going to have that. So now if it's you against them, you're documented. Theirs is their feeling, their word, they're making up stuff. So you're going to be, and when people will say to me all the time, well, documentation doesn't prevent. No, it doesn't. Anyone can sue you, but your chances of winning or at least not losing are going to be 10 times greater if you protect yourself from the very
and if you're having to work with a lawyer, and you have to think like a lawsuit is draining on the business in so many ways. It affects employee morale. It impacts the owner's focus, ability. Of course, you have the dollar amount hanging over your head of what you would have to pay, but the legal fees can be really crazy, right? Because these paralegals are having to dig up all this stuff. And so even having all of that in one place reduces that, because they're not having to, again, like figure out how to position this as much when you have this objective documentation. And again, the documentation needs to be objective. If the documentation is emotional, it is alluding to things that are discriminatory or, wrongful termination stuff, that's not great, because you then have that in writing. And so it has to be as objective as possible. But when, Ali has lawsuits that happen at the law firm and he asks these attorneys like, okay, why are you suing my client? Like, what do you have? They'll be like, your client doesn't even have an updated employee handbook, the most basic part of HR. So if they don't have that, what else do they not have? Right. And so it just culminates into these really big things where it could start as discrimination, but then they start throwing wage and hour in there, and there's fines for not giving employees certain documents. Like, it just can add up, and again, it can be preventable.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's just crazy.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not surprised that we're having this conversation. I mean, there, HR. What am I trying to say?
We make all of our doctors get EPLI now. We're just like, get EPLI.
That's a great one too. Yeah, and what a lot of people don't realize is most EPLI coverage though doesn't cover wage and hour claims. It's kind of like trying to get, like, I'm in California. It's trying to get fire insurance in California right now, right? Like, because wage and hour issues are so common that that stuff's still not covered, and so.
Well, we're doing the best we can. What else do we have?
No, it's great. No, absolutely, you need it. I preach that all day long. You should absolutely have EPLI, but be aware of like what's in your policy, and don't think like, because again, we hear that.
Feel like you're just protecting
EPLI. Yeah, and they're like, I'm good. I can do whatever I want, and it's like, you can't.
Well, I guess where I was going with that is that,
we went off on a tangent.
That the front office has duties, the dental assistants have duties, the hygienists have duties, right? Just to do the job well.
Yep.
And if we're just trying to get our clients, our dentists, to get team members to just do their basic duties, it's not even HR issues.
Right.
That's hard for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, when we're trying to prevent conflict, that's like a level 10 conversation. Whereas like, hey, can you start making some more confirmation calls? Because we're getting a lot of cancellations. They're having a hard time having that conversation, let alone having a conversation about you being late and you're not getting PTO and you're getting on your cell phone and conflict. So it's like, I can see how HR is really difficult for the listeners and the dentists. And all I can tell you folks listening is, if you are going to be an owner, you got to get comfortable having conversations with your team.
Yeah.
Whether it's a changing of a job description or doing a duty differently or
they're
having
late.
an HR conversation. Like
Right.
this is the X factor, literally the X factor of being a good owner and having great culture and being fulfilled within ownership. If you can't do this, stay in Heartland and be an associate. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I think, so I do view HR as a strategy, like, and even like some personal experiences internally with HR for Health. I started out on the sales side, selling the product. And a couple years in, you know, I wasn't super thrilled with where our culture was. Like, we're not immune to this stuff, even though we're an HR company. And so I made a really like weird, sharp turn into being our operations manager. So I was externally facing. All of a sudden, the entire company reported to me. And also, I was friends with all of them. And then I got promoted, and overnight, I was not friends with them anymore. They did not want to be my friend. And I actually went back to the basics of like, okay, what do we have in writing with our handbook? Where's everybody's job descriptions at? Like, where, and I, in that moment, had no idea what I had been selling previously and like how much it can really help you to change a very emotional and honestly kind of toxic situation into something where it's like, nope, this is going to help me create consistency. This is going to help them to see how I lead, how I hold them accountable, how they get to hold me accountable. And it was like a game changer for me. But my North Star was always, have I put this in writing and given the right expectations? And if I hadn't, that's what I did first. And then like held them accountable consistently. And I'm really proud of like what we were able to build into that, like with where our team is now.
Oh, that's great. That's super cool. Well, any last minute kind of like, I got to get this out last minute. You know, well, I mean, I don't think we've given you a chance to say what you guys do. And
we don't need a whole sales pitch. Look, like I think it's just the awareness of like.
We started with that.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about what we do. I think that, you know, timing in terms of where we're at right now, we're coming to the end of the year. We have the beginning of the year. If you're wondering like, okay, when should I start to put some structure in place? How do I revisit this? This is a great time to kind of blame it on there's new laws. I'm getting everything in order. And kind of use again, HR for Health as like the scapegoat. We're happy to be that scapegoat of just, we're putting it all in a new system and now it's transparent. But yeah, and I think the other piece kind of like of advice, I guess I would give is just don't ignore those little things. Like just keep on top of it and realize like every decision you're making, think, am I prepared to do this for everybody else? Am I prepared to make this exception for everybody else? Am I prepared to make this consolidation, whatever it is, like that's, and if the answer is no, then don't do it and really think through like what your processes are. And just, I think the other thing is reach out to HR for help. Like, even if you're not a client, like it is so much easier for us to help you before you make a decision on something or take an action on something than afterwards where we, it's out of our hands.
So real quick, Jill, Michael asked, how do you present yourself from being sued? We kind of mentioned them. 3 in a nutshell, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Employee handbook, and do what is said in your employee handbook.
Hold them accountable. Make
sure your time clock, every single person is clocking in and out to the time clock. Ideally, your time clock understands what a hygienist is. If they're paying paid percent production, percent collection per patient, like everyone still needs to be able to get overtime and clock in and out. Biggest like risk by far. And then third, that documentation, like.
That was 4, but that's beautiful.
Oh, sorry.
I love it. I knew we were going to have to add
I gave you a bonus one. I'm like, there's so much.
Freebie.
I love it.
Right.
Well, Jill,
it's one of the biggest things that I deal with every day, even though they're not my offices, is doctors calling me. What do I do here? Yeah. What do I do there? And I say, look, I'm not an HR attorney. That's a very
pretty much all our partners say. Like, and I wouldn't want to do that. Actually, we don't want you guys to have liability, like in terms of doing that in a way that maybe isn't best. And yeah, we have so many free resources on hrforhealth.com. We are at least twice a year On December 2nd, it's currently scheduled for, and it'll be recorded. We do a law updates webinar, which is literally we break down the laws that are coming up, what you have to do with them specifically for a dental practice. And so I would just start to like accustom yourself with that as like a starting point, just so you're aware of the things you need to be looking out for.
Yeah.
I love it.
So you can not sleep at night even more.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. At first it'll be a little scary, and then you'll start to get in your
you'll call HR for Health and
you'll sleep way better, I promise.
Well, thank you, Jill, for being on the show.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It's such a blast. I'll be back anytime you want me.
I love that. Well, thanks, Jill, for your time. And as always, folks, just please like, subscribe, follow. We love those 5-star reviews, so please do that. And without further ado, Jill, with HR for Health, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Let us know how you like the show. Rate us on Apple and Spotify. Subscribe and follow for more.